Before we jump into the latest Falcons roster moves and news, help us reach 8,000 subscribers here on the channel. We got less than 400 to go, and we're trying to get there by week 1. So here's a pretty good incentive for you guys. If you hate the Saints and you want to pile drive them into the ground week 1, hit that sub button. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, breaking down the latest Falcons roster moves as they have placed a handful of guys on IR, which has opened up some roster spots to bring back some familiar faces. So we're going to run through all that, plus Bleacher reports not being very kind to the Dirty Birds going into 2022. But here are 5 big moves that the Falcons and Terry Fontenot made just the other day, placing a handful of key names like Dion Jones and Isaiah Oliver on injured reserve, along with Marlon Davidson, Jalen Mayfield, and John FitzPatrick. So with 5 guys going on short-term IR, which means they can return after 4 weeks. The NFL rules state that if you make these moves after the 53-man roster cuts, you can place them on short-term IR. They're not lost for the season. They just got to come back after 4 weeks of football. So with that, Fontenot added a couple of familiar faces back onto the squad. Defensive lineman Abdullah Anderson, linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski, and Colby Gossett. So some familiar faces coming back, plus 2 waiver claims, which adds up to the 5 spots in total. Chuma Edoga, the offensive tackle from the New York Jets. I like this waiver claim. The Jets were trying to move on from Edoga, looking to trade him. Ultimately, no one would send any offers because they said, you know what, why give away a pick when you're going to release him in like 24 hours? The Falcons got him off the waiver wire, and I think this is a smart move for Atlanta. They've got to build some sort of depth at offensive line. Outside of a couple guys who have really cemented their spot, like Matthews, for example, on this offensive line, nothing else is a guarantee for the most part, especially with McCrary at the right tackle spot. So, Matt Dickerson also comes over from the waiver wire. He's a defensive lineman, former UDFA, that's been bouncing around the league. He was with the Cardinals all of training camp. They let him go, but he's got some real NFL experience. He started his career off with the Titans coming out of UCLA, where he made a handful of appearances. But let's talk about the most notable name that was placed on IR, and that is Dion Jones. It's been an interesting offseason, to say the least, for Dion Jones. From the trade rumors, to going to the PUP list, to coming off the PUP list, playing in the preseason finale, not looking like vintage Dion Jones, and now he lands on IR. I think this is one of those conspiracy moments where we go full Windhorse mode. What are the Falcons doing, right? Are they just trying to buy time, open up a roster spot for a player they don't see as a part of their long-term plans or future, and they're just sort of hiding him on IR for 4 weeks so they can get a better look at some other guys like Walker or Troy Anderson? It doesn't feel like he's just going to IR because he's really hurt and he can't play football for 4 weeks. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but to me, it seems like something's a little bit fishy, right? Something's a little bit off at Flowery Branch. I just think we just got to keep your eyes on this situation here, because I don't buy that Dion Jones has a legitimate injury that's sidelining him for the next 4 weeks, right? We just saw him return, and he didn't look all that good. So to me, I think this is a move where the Falcons go, we weren't going to really play you. This is just a chance to bring some other guys on and get a look at some other linebackers. Maybe I'm crazy. You guys can let me know in the comments. But it did afford an opportunity for Nick Kwiatkowski to come back. He's had some meaningful starts and game time action in the NFL with the Chicago Bears and with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I think we've seen some good moves by the Falcons, but this Dion Jones one is a bit of a head scratcher. I just think it's one of those, wait a minute, what's going on here type of moves here. But let me ask this question, probably the biggest question right now surrounding Dion Jones and the Falcons. Will Dion Jones play for the Falcons this season? Or has he played his last snap for Atlanta? Type P for play or if you think they're just going to cut him after these 4 games and go, you know what, we like what we've seen out of our younger guys, some new faces, time to shake hands and move on, or can they find a trade partner? It's difficult to find someone who wants to pick up his base salary just because the way the NFL is played today, expensive inside linebackers that aren't in the top tier upper echelon of inside linebackers, they just don't go for a whole lot there. But let me know what you're thinking down below. And hey, while you're getting your comments in, if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do so. It says smash that sub on the screen. You don't have to smash it. You can just tap it, prickle it. Whatever tickles your fancy, just click that subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Let's talk about the practice squad now, as that is beginning to get filled out. The Falcons currently have 15 players on their practice squad, 16 total spots for NFL practice squads, so look for one more name to be added. But here is who Atlanta has thus far. Michael Pruitt, which I thought was a great addition, just because anytime you can get a guy in your practice squad that at one point you played against or had on your fantasy team, you're like, well, that's a name. I know that name at least. Teez Tabor, another vet. Ducks do not pull trucks, Teez. Cam Batson, Josh Ollie, Justin Schaefer, Caleb Huntley, Derek Tangelo, Jordan Brailford, Matt Hankins, and Tyler Vrabel. And then the last 5 guys to round it out, Ryan Newsel, Frank Darby, 2021 6th-round pick, who just kind of got edged out with Damiere Byrd and Drake London and Brian Edwards. You know, there's not enough room for an extra receiver, but he lands on the practice squad. Hopefully he can improve there and maybe come back in 2023 really competing for this 53-man roster. Kadar Holman, Anthony Fursker, another tight end. You're seeing a bit of a trend here. The Falcons may want to incorporate some tight end heavy sets, so why not have some extra depth in your practice squad, and Tucker Fisk as well. So who is your favorite player on this Falcons practice squad, right? Who is the guy that you think has been grinding, has been gritty all preseason, all training camp, and you're like, I'm happy this guy is sticking around, and unfortunately, he's just one injury away for someone to come back on the field, which is fortunate for him, but you never root for injuries. All right, final segment of today's show. Bleacher Report was not friendly to Atlanta. No, they predicted all 32 teams' NFL records for the 2022 NFL season. They got the Falcons going 3-14, and honestly, can you really disagree with them all that much? I hate to be that guy, but the Falcons roster is just not the most complete. Here's what Bleacher Report said. The reality of the Atlanta Falcons situation is clear. Longtime quarterback Matt Ryan requested a trade, and the Falcons moved him to the Indianapolis Colts. Atlanta replaced him with Marcus Mariota, a stopgap QB who's taking snaps until 2022 third-round pick Desmond Ridder is ready. The receiving core is extremely thin. Even as first-rounder Drake London is a potential standout next to tight end Kyle Pitts. Calvin Ridley won't be available because of a season-long suspension for betting on NFL games in 2021. Perhaps the Falcons will steal a few unexpected wins if Mariota outperforms his expectations and the defense's top players stay healthy. Anything close to a true playoff contention would be surprising, though. I hate to be the asshole who says the Falcons are going to go 3-14, but I don't think the Falcons are going to be pushing the needle this year. I've got a lot of friends in Alpharetta, in Decatur, in Buckhead. When you say, hey, what are the Falcons going to do this year? No one's jumping up and down saying this is above 500 football team. And that's okay. I think you can look at this season a couple different ways going into it. There's 53 players on the roster right now. How many do you think are going to be on this roster in 2 seasons? 25 of those 53? You're going to see a lot of turnover, right? You're going to see a lot of change, a lot of gutting of some old contracts, and injecting some youth in there. And that happens, and hopefully that youth plans out, and it works out to be a good team in a couple of seasons. But for now, if it's not 3-14, 4-5 wins, I mean, what do you guys think the record's going to be this season? I'm going to be a little bit upbeat here to raise morale and give it a 4-win season. Anything more than that would be a bit of a surprise. I mean, you've got a quarterback who has thrown 20 passes the last 2 seasons for the Raiders. it's going to be a bit of Pandora's box with Mariota and what he looks like. Are you going to get the good Mariota from the Titans, or are you going to get the bad Mariota from the Titans? Or even better yet, are you going to get Desmond Ridder for a bunch of the season? And who knows how that rookie QB fares. So that's my take on this. Now, if you have made it to the end of the video, appreciate you for sticking all the way through. You are a real one, we like to say here at Chat Sports. So type real one down in the comments section so we can separate the phonies from the real ones, because the real ones, they never tap out.